Right. Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for stopping by. As always, our guest today is currently the board chair of Protect Our Winters Canada, an environmental group focused on fighting climate change. He is consistently listed by the media as one of the most influential skiers of all time, known as the godfather of free ski. Mike founded Switchback Entertainment, a video production company specialized in outdoor venture films, commercials, and today we are here to talk about his newest film, Sam and Me, Lessons from Life on Snow. If you guys like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. Hit that freaking subscribe button. Let's go. This week brought to you by Covenant House Vancouver. And without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Douglas. Thank you so much for coming on our show, dude. We're so stoked to talk to you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for that intro, Devin. Yeah, good job.
You got it, man.
That's awesome, Mike. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Because my other son and I, Dylan, this is Devin, the other one, Dylan and I went and checked out your movie at the Vancouver National Mountain Film Fest a couple weeks ago, and you and Sam were on stage asking questions afterwards, and it was really killer. It was really awesome and really inspiring on both sides, from the older guy's point of view as yourself, and then the younger 13-year-old Sam there. So it was really, really, really awesome. But before we start our chat, what we do here is we do something called several truths and a few lies. Hey, Dev.
Yeah.
So to give our audience a little bit more kind of a little bit more juice on Mike here. So I'm gonna read these things. Dev and I are gonna have to pick which is the lie or lies. Okay, Dev?
Awesome.
All right, here we go. Number one. I've been on the cover of over 40 magazines. Wow.
Believe it.
Man. I didn't know that Playgirl had that many issues out, but you know what? Whatever. Hey, yeah. Number two, I have never actually landed a D-spin. All my films have used body doubles. Dev?
I don't know about that.
Okay, number three, I had dinner with Al Gore and Barack Obama at COP24.
Oh, damn.
So that's good, because COP26 just happened in Glasgow a couple weeks ago, and that was talking, Barack Obama, Al Gore, that's pretty, Okay, number four here. While filming a ski film in Japan, I wanted to soak in an onsen hot springs, but they wouldn't let me in because I had a tattoo on my shoulder. Tattoo on my shoulder, onsen. Devin, you know all about that. Next one of my films was featured on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Oh God, all these, man. Wow, okay. And last but not least, I'm a regular guest with a hair farmers band at Whistler, where I play my jazz flute during Bubba O'Reilly.
Oh, that's what?
We love those guys. They're like so good. The hair farmers are just the house band for all of Whistler. And they do a who a lot. They play the fiddle of Bubba O'Reilly. But the jazz flute, he's a big jazz flautist. Jazz flute, baby. Yeah. Man, so what do you think of the lies?
I don't know. There might be a few there. I don't know. You throw some in here. Like, I don't believe that you use a body double to do tricks, man. I don't know. I think you're hardcore. But also, I saw you in an onsen. That's weird. In Foundation of Youth. So you're in an onsen.
In the film, yeah.
So maybe
he was in an onsen. He was in an onsen in the film, wasn't he? You're right.
And then I'm gonna go with those two.
So the body double and the onsen.
Yeah, that's me. What about you? Yeah. Lock it in.
I'm gonna go with the those are the onset, but he was in Japan, and I saw he was in Japan. Maybe okay, I'm gonna say the hair farmers, the jazz flute. He doesn't play the jazz flute.
All right.
So
how did we do?
How did we do there, Mike?
You guys did pretty well. Yeah. I mean, I never use body double. That's for sure. I'm still able to actually do my tricks. So and something that I work hard with in terms of the goals. I do not have a tattoo. So I
okay,
am
no
cleared
tattoo.
to do the onsen thing in Japan, but I do know what you guys are saying there, because that can be problematic. Occasionally, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but sometimes they give you these sort of skin colored lycra suits to put on over your tattoos. Yeah. So but I don't have any tattoos, so we're clear there. You're also right. I do not play the flute with the hair farmers. However,
I knew there's something.
however, I was in a jazz band in high school that won the Canadian like under 18 jazz championships. So I played trumpet.
Oh my God.
There's some truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's one more lie in there too that you guys didn't nail. And that is I have not had dinner with Barack Obama and Al Gore.
Okay. Were you at COP24?
No.
Okay.
No, I've never been to it. I've never been to a COP. I actually I'm fairly new in the whole environmental area, at least being deeply involved in it. So I haven't made any of those kind of waves yet. Right.
Oh, interesting. Very cool. So okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, I guess, your background, right? Your mega ski background, going back, a long time. I mean, I guess people talking about you as one of the most influential skiers, right?
Well, yeah, this is when we watched a little bit of your, like, the foundation of youth. Like, you were dedicated, you figured out at the age of like 15, you were like hardcore, let's go, send it all the way into skiing. So I guess, yeah, what we're going to ask here is like, what was your first ever thought? Like, why did you go for, you know what, that's the dopest thing ever, I want to be a professional skier, or I just want to ski?
It's just, from the first time I skied, it was a feeling that I'd never had doing anything else. It was, like flying, but being on the ground. And at the same time, it was loaded with adventure. What's around that next corner? What's over that hill?
Yeah.
Can I make it down that steep run? Like all these questions and all this excitement. And from the first time I did it, I just wanted to keep doing it. And, as a kid growing up in the 80s, I never really thought that you could make a career out of it. But when I moved to Whistler to take a year off from school, I'm air quoting here, year off from school. I started all of a sudden to see opportunities and see that there were paths to careers in the ski business and as a skier. And I kind of pursued that, chased down the sort of an Olympic dream as a mogul skier in my earlier days. And then the big break came when my buddies and I drew up some designs for a twin tip ski. And once we sort of got the ski industry to bite into that and created the Solomon 1080, everything changed, and my whole ski career just kind of blew up and got really cool for a while.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's genius. I mean, it was one of those things where it's like you're staring at it, you're going, put a rear tip on this front tip and a rear tip on it, and it's you think now looking back, it's like, isn't that kind of a no-brainer? We should have done that before. And it was incredible that you guys figured that out. And they've totally revolutionized the whole ski industry, right? It's incredible what people are able to do, and the tricks that people and the kids, I say kids, hitting these jumps. And, you see these guys going into the jump. Which way do they go into it? They go in backwards, right? They go in backwards and they come and they land backwards. And that's allowing it's allowing things to hit a different level. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of things. It was just timing, really. It seems like a no-brainer now, but when you saw where the ski industry was at back then, it was really an old boys club and sort of, traditional racing and if you long skis truck, short skis suck. Like you had to put your hand up above your head to measure your skis, because if you didn't have really long skis, you were a wimp or whatever. And got to give some props to snowboarding, because snowboarding came along and sort of turned a lot of that sort of thought on its head. And then we kind of adapted what they were doing to skiing, and then sort of it all took off.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that, the length of the ski, because I used to work, I worked like 3 winters at Lake Louise in Banff. and used to go up there. We lived in a trailer at the bottom of the hill with my buddy ran the rental shop. And it was like, we're going to go up there and he's going to set us up with some new skis. But they were always like, okay, who's got the 215s? If you had 210s, you were a wimp. If you had 215s, like it was always like the longest freaking skis that you could manage. It was like, and anything under that, you're just a wimp, you know. And and now we're all on like, you know, back on 170s, 175s, and yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it just keeps changing.
Yeah, it totally changes. So you've had an amazing history, career in the ski industry, from skiing to, you know, your filmmaking, and now you are involved in Protect Our Winters, POW, right? And you're on their board of directors. And so what caused you to make a shift? Like Devin asked, you know, what made you kind of get into the ski industry? What made you, you know, think about, hey, you know, I want to get involved in something a little bit bigger than all of us, you know, and you know, climate change and protecting our winters.
Well, it was, you know, through my travel and my time in the mountains, I started
Right.
to actually see the effects of climate change with my own eyes. And it wasn't this abstract thing to me anymore. And it was something that couldn't be denied. And I've kind of been feeling that way for about 20 years now, to be honest. And for a long time, I didn't really know what to do about it. You know, I've never felt like I was an activist or even an environmentalist for that matter. I was, you know, I was a skier. I just wanted to be out in the mountains. But at a certain point, you reach that, you know, the spot where you're like, man, this is, you know, what the scientists are saying. We're seeing this in our day-to-day travels. And at that point, I was like, okay, I feel like I owe it to my kids to get involved and get active and to try and at least use my platform to do something about this. And so once I kind of discovered Protect Our Winters that was operating down in the States, I was like, okay, well, there's some of my people that are starting to talk about this and starting to make some waves down there. And eventually I connected with them and got involved and was sort of helping them with their campaigns in the US. And then I guess it was around 2017, we were, you know, a few of us Canadians started talking and we're like, you know, we really need this to happen in Canada as well. And so we sort of got the whole organization rolling up here and away we go.
Wow. That's, yeah. And then you, it was interesting because the film that we saw, Dylan and I saw the other night at the film festival, Sam and Me, right? So that's kind of directly, it has a direct connection to POW and climate change and whatnot. And what I believe, I mean, by what I saw in the film was you have Sam, he's 13-year-old kid out of Pemberton. I think he's out of Pemberton. And he was really worried. He was having anxiety, you know, issues with, you know, probably watching the news and watching, you know, all the reports on climate change and then all these atmospheric rivers that are hitting us here and then the fires and whatnot. And then he came to you, right? Is that your family friend? And then you decided to do a film with him called Sam and Me?
Yeah, I had actually never met or heard of Sam. I randomly got an email sent to me through Protect Our Winters, and just saying, hey, I'm looking for some advice on what to do. I'm feeling pretty stressed. And I think it was his mom that suggested that he reach out to me, you know, just knowing she knew of me and that I was getting active in that sort of climate movement. And he was just, you know, looking for tips. Is there anything I can do? And you know, when you get something like that from a 13-year-old, he was actually even 12 at the time, to be honest. He turned 13 shortly after, but you get something like that and you're like, man, you know, you start to realize how this stuff's affecting people. And that one really hit me particularly hard because it was the first time I'd gotten a message from someone so young. And you know, to be 13 years old and to feel the weight of this on your shoulders and wondering about your future it just seems kind of wrong to me.
Yeah, because there was a shot. So what you guys did is you guys hung out together for, I don't know if it was a year or whatnot, where you filmed this film. But there's a shot that resonated with me in there when you guys are either skinning up or you have some shots of the Blackcomb Glacier, right? And there's a shot of it, I don't know, 10 years ago. a nice full, beautiful glacier, and then now, and they basically shut the T-bar on one side, all this stuff, because it's receded so freaking quickly. I mean, I've seen it in other areas, but when you actually see it in your own backyard, in the Whistler Blackcomb area, you're like, oh my God, like this is serious stuff. Like it really is changing quickly. And I totally understand where, Sam is getting that anxiety from, so it was really, really cool to see the two of you and your bond between the two of you guys, and like your mentorship of Sam over that period, and just see his kind of I guess the progression through the film. And yeah, a lot of lessons learned, and really really, really cool. Really, really cool.
No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where when Sam first reached out to me, I gave him a few quick ideas of things that he could do immediately to try and just take the edge off that anxiety he was feeling. And then it was probably a couple months later, we'd been in touch back and forth a few times. And then I suggested the idea of how about we make a film? And because I said to him, I don't think you're alone in this. And I asked him, are your friends feeling this way? And he said, yeah, you'd be surprised how many are. And so, so we decided to make the film, and Sam and his family agreed. And so we started in January, and we filmed. From then we'd get together once a week for the whole season until the season ended in April. So we kind of kept up at it that way. And I wanted to pass on what I knew. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm a skier. But I've learned, I've been around the block a few times, and I've learned a few things that, just about life and how to manage different things that come up along the way. And I just wanted to try as best as I could to pass that on to Sam, and at the same time, not sugarcoat things, because I think he's too smart of a kid for that. I don't think he would have bought, me trying to tell him everything's going to be okay, Sam, don't worry, it's all overblown, because that's not really true. So I wanted to show him, on more of a local level, like, this is how climate change is affecting us here, and what can we do about that? Let's break this down, and let's figure it out, and who should we talk to? And I don't want to give away too much of the film, but he goes up the chain in his community, and finds that it's surprising how willing people actually are to listen. Willing they are to listen to a kid, more so than I think a lot of kids think.
Exactly. And I thought it was really cool. I mean, I don't want to give too much away either, but just the meeting that you guys had, or he had, with a bunch of his friends and one of the mayors up there, that was pretty cool too, with having the audience, a 13-year-old kid having an audience with the mayor and with his friends, and explaining, his concerns, and having the ear, which was really cool. Yeah. And there were some goals. There were some other goals in there that Sam had for his skiing and whatnot, and spending so much time in the mountains with you, and really learning and appreciating, what we were so fortunate to have here. And his goal of, skiing DOA at the end of the season, which is a major shoot up at Blackcomb, but I'm not going to say anything about that. It's a great story. And I think it's not just a ski story. It's a story about, what's currently going on here on our planet. And it's one of these films that, say everybody should, take a peek at, and have a look at it. Yeah, really, really. Yeah, I just loved it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I had two goals with the film. The first goal was to help Sam get him to a better place mentally. But the second goal of the film was, I wanted to make a climate film that wasn't full of doom and gloom. Yeah. And because I feel like so much of the messaging, I mean, the subject matter is pretty dark. We can't deny that, but so much of the messaging is focused on everything going wrong. And in terms of this film, I really wanted to at least try and focus on getting to a better place. And whether that's, I mean, the climate is just this massive thing to focus on. But if you break it down and you set little goals along the way, that you can actually achieve some forward progress. And so that was a big goal of the film for sure.
And that's what the cool thing was, is like, I mean, the goal, I mean, one of the goals of Sam there was to meet with one of the mayors and have an audience and air the concerns of younger people like his age, 12 and 13-year-olds, my gosh. And, they're really switched on and really thinking about this stuff. And I think the mayor was actually quite taken back by, like, holy smokes, this is great, that these guys, and it really shows that, I mean, it really shows that the youth, I mean, I'm just so impressed with the youth these days. They're just so much more switched on than we ever were, or I ever was anyway. And my buddies back in the 70s and 80s when we were doing all this stuff, it's really inspiring to have them get involved and do what they do. And they're meeting with mayors and they're trying to make change. It's just it's really inspired me. And yeah, super cool stuff. I also want to talk about, going from climate change and that film to another film of yours, which I love this film. I think it's like a 26-minute film. It's called The Fountain of Youth, that you did a couple years ago when you visited Japan, which is really interesting. And it's something that I've personally been thinking about a lot because I'm turning 60 this March. And during COVID lockdown, my wife and we've been really focused on focused inward on ourselves, and doing a lot of learning, doing a lot of different types of exercise, breathing, and just longevity, just trying to create, longevity. And we've even Devin here, he's got me into the Wim Hof ice bath stuff. So Devin and I'll go up to Whistler, we'll break a hole. There's actually already an ice hole there in Needle Lake, and we'll go down there and do a soak. And I'll go with a few of my buddies and, kind of get all nice and cold and come out and feel great. But the really cool thing is you actually trace this even further. Like you trace this to Japan, because some of the oldest elders on the planet come from Japan, and you matched it with skiing. So I love this film. I think this is a really super cool film, and it's called The Fountain of Youth, right? So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way this film came about is, I'm still technically a professional skier. I just turned 52, so
right.
I have broken through the ceiling of professional free skier by about almost 20 years now, which is absurd to me that this could still be happening. And so when I turned 47, it kind of dawned on me for the first time that I actually didn't know anyone else in the world who did what I did that was older than me. And the fact is, I really like being a skier and traveling around the world and doing this kind of cool, fun stuff. And I thought to myself, how am I going to keep this going? I'm in uncharted territory already. I don't want to stop. So what can I do? And Japan has been a place that's been quite close to my heart for a long time. I sort of built my ski career there, believe it or not, in the early 90s. And so I've been to Japan and had a close connection to the country for many, many years. And as I started doing research on longevity, the major industrialized countries, Japan has the oldest living population. And so I thought, okay, they're onto something over there. And I was looking for an excuse to go over and ski some powder and reconnect with some friends over there. And I thought, I'm quite curious. I want to go see if I can figure out what the secrets to these people are. And what started as something perhaps a little bit tongue-in-cheek actually became quite profound for me, to be honest. We looked at a lot of the obvious things, diet and sort of exercise and the onsen culture that you talked about earlier with the hot springs and the sort of the meditation level of these kinds of things. But what really sort of brought it home was when I met with the Miura family. And Yuichiro Miura is one of Japan's superstar athletes of all time. He's a legend. Most people would know him as the man who skied down Everest from the 1975 Oscar.
Absolutely. I remember I went to see that at one of the Remember the Warren Miller films? Warren Miller films. Well, this is kind of a similar thing in a theater, and then you would go and watch the man who skied everything. Like, what the heck? And I remember going to see that. That's amazing. That was 1975, was it? Holy shit.
Well, he actually tried to ski Everest in, I think it was like 70 or 71.
Wow.
But then it didn't work, right? Like he
Yeah.
crashed. He tried to straight run the
That's
Lhotse
right.
face with a parachute on his back and
That's
almost died
right.
in a
That's right.
crevasse.
I remember.
And so, they came home from that expedition and it was like this grand failure, and they decided not to make a film. And then a Canadian filmmaker, I can't remember his name right now, but he ended up buying the footage off of them and then making the film, which won an Academy Award. So,
Right.
but Yuichiro has gone on. He sort of used that as a springboard to elevate his status, but he's gone on to just become this legendary sportsman in Japan, and in fact is the current Mount Everest summit age record holder. So he summited it at 80 years old, and not only
didn't
that,
he go with his son? Wasn't his son with him too?
Yeah, his son
Gota was 47 or something, and his dad was 80, and they both summited Everest or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So and Gota and I used to train together in our mogul days. So Gota was also a World Cup mogul skier. And so I had that sort of the family connection through him. We actually lived together for a time.
Right.
And not only that, but Yuichiro's father, Kaizo, was a incredible skier as well, putting in 100+ day years up until he died at 101 years old. So just this family, to me they were superheroes, and they were doing things that nobody else seemed to be able to do. And it wasn't just one person in the family, but it was these generations. And so I figured there had to be some sort of superhuman qualities to them, and maybe we could figure out what it was. And you guys have seen the film, so there were no superhuman qualities. They simply followed a very basic system of goal setting and just repetition of exercises like skiing and hiking and all these things, and just stayed incredibly active and were able to just keep going.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in Japan, they actually have a term called, I mean, this isn't just for superhuman athletes. This is for a lot of the Japanese people. They call it tree bathing. And they just say you spend time out in nature, and and it just helps your mentality, your physical, everything, and just time in nature. But these guys are amazing. There was a study, I remember in part of the film there, they were studying Yuichiro's bone density, right? And they had this graph, and it showed his bone density at 80 is better than it was when he was 20 or something crazy, because of all the stuff that he does. It was really, really interesting stuff. Incredible guy.
For sure. And it's been interesting because it's now been 5 years since I was over there.
Yeah.
And made that film, but that film has had a pretty dramatic effect on my life, because I'm 5 years later, I'm still pulling this off somehow. But it's just through following the simple goal setting techniques that Yuichiro outlined, and also the fact that skiing is the sort of a super sport for longevity. It's one of the best things that you can actually do, and that's from the studies that have come out on different sports. So so pretty cool. This is a fun project to work on.
Yeah, because it's right up your alley. I mean, it's almost it's like not justification, but what it is, it's basically saying, what you've been doing your whole life is actually extremely, extremely good for you and humans. Like skiing is one of the best sports for longevity, which is it's incredible. Because we spend a lot of time at Whistler. My next door neighbor up there, Paul, he's 9 years older, 8 or 9 years older than me, and I call him the Energizer Bunny. We actually call him the Armadillo, because when we go mountain biking, he crashes and he just rolls like an armadillo down the hill, and he gets up and he goes, "I'm good." But he's almost 70 years old, and he's just an animal. And I was in the parking lot with him. He skis like crazy too, and I was in the parking lot with him during COVID, and I'm going, dude, like you're just like, you're killing it. You're killing it. He goes, "Nigel, it's not it's not about beating you or beating my buddies up the mountain anymore. It's just about longevity and just having fun all the time. And it's just being able to do it, you know, for a long time into my 80s, my 90s. And I'm like, you know what? And I say this on this podcast a lot. I talk about Paul, and it's like, it's so true. So I've really thought about that, because you know, you're getting, you know, you're into your mid 50s. I'm getting into I'm going to be 60. And it's just like, holy smokes, like, you know, what do I do? So during COVID, I really learned to kind of redial things and manage stress in certain ways. But then it's a morning routine. I do my morning routine religiously. I do all this different types of stretching and all this stuff to get myself loosened up, and a whole bunch of breathing. Then we do the cold dips, like we do the Wim Hof ice bath pretty much every day. Go in for, you know, between 3 and 5 minutes in ice water. And I'm telling you, I feel better now. It's almost 60 than I did at 27, 28. I feel strong. I feel really good. And I'm able to more manage my energy, and yeah, and I'm just having a whole lot of fun. And it's like these Yoshiro and Gota and these guys, and like yourself, it's there's just so much learning out there, you know, that we can do. And the Japanese really, I don't know, they have something. I mean, this goes back thousands of years with the Japanese, the way they've been living their lives. And it's super, 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 yeah, super cool.
Well, the one thing, the biggest mistake that I probably made earlier in my life was assuming that I would get skiing out of my system, or that one day, you know, I wouldn't want to do it anymore. I wouldn't care anymore, or I would move on from it and settle down in front of the TV. I don't know what I was thinking, honestly, but I think a lot of people view that as like, well, enjoy your 20s and maybe your early 30s, and then you just blow your body up, and then you just, I don't know what you're supposed to do the rest of your life. But
I know
the thing that I've noticed is that I still love skiing. I still love mountain biking. I still love being out in the mountains. And like you said, as mentally, we're all more challenged than ever with pandemics and climate change and all these other things. I find that getting out into the wild spaces is not only good for me physically, but it's necessary for me on a mental level.
Yeah,
and
as we go crazy.
yeah, and that's really, you know, something that I need. It's something that has to be part of my daily routine, or I eventually become a grumpy guy.
Yeah. I asked my wife about that. I go crazy if I don't get out and go for a ride or go skiing or something. But you're so right. Like, I have really good buddies that I used to mountain bike race with. We mountain bike race for like 10 years. Probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Brutal. And then skied and whatnot. And then when we kind of got into our 40s, it was almost like, oh, I don't do that anymore. You're like, no, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean you're done? I was like, well, I don't ride. I don't ski. Or maybe ski once a year or whatever. I'm like, you kidding? Like, it's, and it just, everything just kind of fades, and your group of friends that are, you know, that you used to do all this stuff with kind of fade, and then you kind of get a whole new group of friends that are doing it. And all the guys that I'm doing this, like I mountain bike tons and tons still, downhill mountain biking, whatever, anything, and ski as much as I can. But all the guys that I go with, they're all older than me. And I'm almost 60. So what the hell's going on there?
They're getting it figured out. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends where you're at too, right? You spend time in a place like Whistler, you're going to meet a lot of those like-minded people. And
right, exactly.
And I'm the same way. I've got friends that are 20 years younger than me, and I've got friends that are 10 years older that I'll do things with on a weekly basis. But I think, you know, there's people, and I think we're fortunate, not just here in Whistler, but in BC, Vancouver, this whole part of the world, there is a greater realization of the benefits of exercise and being outside and being in the mountains. And we have so much here in our backyards. And I remember thinking that during the COVID lockdown, and trying to imagine people in the inner cities and in these places where they're just locked in their neighborhoods. Because for me, I always at least had access, you know, I've got forest right behind the house here, and I always had access to go for a little forest walk at least once a day, even when we were on a pretty tight lockdown. So, and I was so thankful for that, because it really made a difference.
Yeah, I know when we were locked down at Whistler we were there for a year during the lockdown, and my wife and I go hiking, and all we'd see was bears because the bears all came. There was so many bears, it was insane.
Yeah,
so like you see 3-5 sets of bears a day. It was absolutely incredible. But yeah, I thought about that too, about, the people in the big cities that are stuck, and then just us being so far, even by, like, I'm in North Vancouver right now, and out behind the house, like pre-COVID, I'd go for a ride up Fro Mountain and whatnot. And I'd maybe see one or two other people. During COVID, there was like 50, and there would be people hiking through the bush, and people with babies in there, like not even on trails, coming crashing to, like, where did you come from? And they got babies in their backpacks, and like everybody suddenly discovered the outside during COVID. It's just like, what is going on? It was it's mind-boggling. Well, I mean, it's good. It's good for all of us, but it was like pretty shocking how things suddenly changed, Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Dev, you got any questions there?
No,
taking it all in.
Taking it in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so right with that. It's kind of funny, like looking around at going to the bike shops, even like all the bikes were all sold out. Like you try to go get your skis fixed or something. It's like, wait forever, man. You're never getting these things back, right? It's like everyone discovered like, oh, outdoors, right?
Yeah. It's and that continues to this day. I had to take my bike into the shop earlier this summer, and they said, yeah, your drivetrain's starting to look a little worn. I'm not sure you're going to get through the summer. And they actually said, if you want to make sure you don't have a pause in your riding, you might want to buy a new drivetrain now while we have it in stock, because once it's gone, we probably won't have any until next year. So I actually preemptively bought a drivetrain for my bike. I mean, that's where it's at. But and you value that part of your life. You gotta
I did the same thing. I couldn't find any parts for my bike, and then I went onto this site called Bicicleta, which is here in Vancouver, and then I found brake pads, and I got rotors because I needed a new rotor. I just bought a few of them just because you can't get. And today I was looking for a rear tire for my bike. I can't find it. I'm gonna see if the shops have got them down the hill. But yeah, you're so right, because everybody's been out of there, and the supply chain's tough.
It is
outdoors, man. Let's go.
I mean, yeah, we had some good. Devin and I, we had some good days last year. We had some good ski days.
Yeah,
so.
we did.
Yeah. Things were kind of shut a bit, but they were open, right? So we could kind of get out there and have some fun. Yeah.
Well, I'll hit you with one last question here before we go, and I like to ask this to some of the guests, but obviously you're a super inspiring guy for me and my dad to have on the show, and it's just great having you here. But what I want to know, what the people want to know, is what would be your 3 points of wisdom that you've acquired through these years on the planet that you would go back to that inspired 15-year-old version of yourself and express those points of knowledge with?
Ooh.
3 points of wisdom. One of them comes back to both the films that we talked about, both Sam and Me and Fountain of Youth, which is always have a goal. Always have something to work towards, because no matter how small, it's just a reason to keep yourself moving forward. And I think I see a lot of people that get bogged down because they get a little bit lost, or things aren't going their way or whatever. But if you can just set a small goal and then achieve it, you get that little good feeling inside, and then you set another goal. And as Yuichiro said in Fountain of Youth, he said, I set a goal to climb the hill behind my house, and 5 years later I was on the top of Mount Everest. So that would for sure be one. I would say don't sweat the little things. I think a lot of us get bogged down in, the email inbox and just the little petty things in life and all those kinds of things. I think, it's easy to say, it's harder to do, but when I look back, a lot of those things that I remember worrying about at the time turned out to be kind of nothing in the big picture. So,
totally.
And then I would say, get out there and live, like really live like it's your last day. It's kind of cliche, but I know I have friends who are now gone now who lived more in their 40 years on earth than the oldest people I know, because they were out there living every single day. And we get bogged down, and I would add maybe a slight fourth is turn off the news once in a while. Just go outside.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
there's not so much you can do about a lot of it, but so you just gotta get out and appreciate what we have while we have it.
That's cool. I gotta say the one thing about your goals, I like the one about setting the goals and not crazy ridiculous goals. I listened to an interview with Laird Hamilton, big wave, guy's an icon, surfer, and he was talking about so Laird, you've got like Devin's question to you. He says, well, so he said, what do you do? What are your goals every day? Like, what do you, and the answer was, well, what I do, very first thing is I get up and I make my bed. I'm like, okay. He says, I make my bed and then I go into my morning routine. And each time I go through something, I have a tiny, small feeling of accomplishment. Making my bed, I feel I accomplished it. Okay. It's one small, tiny, tiny thing. And then I'm going to go on to this and go on to that. And then my day kind of rolls out and he does all of his crazy training, but he's accomplishing these small things along the way. And I thought that was actually kind of cool thing because he's like this legend. And what you're talking about, making your bed, but it's just that little, get into the routine and get into your morning routine and just keep ticking through. And yeah, so it's great.
Yeah. Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward and just keep moving. Just keep moving. Keep moving. I liked, was it, what was his name? Oh, the Japanese guy's game. The 80-year-old guy. What's his name?
Oh, Yuichiro.
Yuichiro, yeah. So he's marching around Tokyo and he's got weighted shoes, right? He's just marching around and I just loved it. I loved seeing that guy. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he's such a legend. Just being around him was so cool because we were, when we were filming the scenes in the movie, we were walking around a section of Tokyo where his office is, and he's got this funny gait because he's got these shoes that weigh 5 pounds each.
Yeah.
He's got a backpack with 20 kilos in it, and he kind of like lumbers along, but then like you just see people in the streets who recognize him and are like, whoa, like getting the autographs and stuff. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool.
That's wild. Actually, my daughter, or Dev's sister, she was in Japan teaching skiing last, when was it? 2019. She got locked down during COVID, but she was in Hakuba 47 teaching skiing up there. So it was just an amazing experience for her too. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I really liked your fourth point there though, that you brought up too. It's like you do things, like get out there, like do things in your direct control. And I heard a guy say this actually once. I think he was a Navy SEAL guy, but he's like, let go of the things that aren't in your control, like watching the news every day, because like you can get so wrapped up and so set in these things and like, you get so, and then that becomes your life, but you can do very little about that. So do things in your direct control and live every day. That's awesome. That's just so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, I think we are going to wrap it up with that. Guys, if you need to know more, you got to know more. You got to know more about Mike Douglas. We will put everything in the link to the description of this video. Please like and subscribe. Guys, check out Fountain of Youth. Check out the new film, Sam and Me. And other than that, do you have any? Oh, yeah, nice.
I just got to say, sign up for POW. These guys are a great organization protecting our winters. Donate. Get a sticker, put it on your truck, whatever it is. These guys are an amazing organization that Mike works with. Yep. And so, I'm just going to keep going like this. Yeah.
Other than that, do you have any final words for us? And we'll have to have you back on. And thank you so much for coming on again.
Well, thank you. I will say one last thing because you just reminded me of it with the POW sticker there. But one thing I've learned, in my short time in the environmental movement is that there are power in numbers, and 50 people working together collaboratively can accomplish far more than 500 people working as individuals. And that's why we need membership at POW. Sign up, it's free, and become a member. Join this group of people, and if we get enough numbers there, we can really make some positive change. So.
Fantastic. Epic. Awesome. All righty. On that note, hey, Dev. Thanks everybody.
So much, man. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And the recording